What if someone told you they were going to take down the world's most powerful empire? You might think they're insane or misguided, but what if they actually pulled it off? What if their plan was so dastardly that it left their own people broken? Welcome to my channel. Today we ask the extraordinary question, what if I told you I was going to destroy Athens? He was a hero, then a traitor, then a hero again, depending on which side you asked. In a war that tore apart the greatest cities of ancient Greece, one man's ambition may have turned the tide. This is the story of Alcibiades, the most dangerous man in Athens. The Peloponnesian War, fought between Athens and Sparta, was more than just a clash of armies. It was a battle of ideologies, cultures, and power. Athens was a hub of intellectual thought. Its democracy allowed for ideas to flourish and spread like wildfire. While Sparta was a disciplined military powerhouse, each citizen bred for war since birth. Yet even Sparta understood the value of ideas. That's why when they found themselves locked in a stalemate with Athens, they looked for an edge. They wanted to win the minds of men, but they weren't prepared for what came next. Enter Alcibiades, born into Athenian nobility, raised in privilege, trained by Socrates himself. His charm disarmed even the most jaded hearts. His intelligence left scholars speechless. And his silver tongue could bend the will of any assembly. He was beloved by many, the darling of Athens, a true hero. But behind that charisma hid a storm of ambition that no city-state could contain. As a young statesman, Alcibiades quickly rose through Athenian politics. Handsome, eloquent, and a lover of luxury, he was adored by many and envied by more. He became famous throughout Greece for two reasons: his good looks and his silver tongue. Being compared to the gods was an honor among mortals. But Alcibiades was so dazzling that people said he was more god than man. When the controversial Sicilian Expedition was proposed, Athens' assembly was divided. Should they send a massive fleet to conquer Sicily or stick to defending the Peloponnese? Both sides had strong arguments. Then Alcibiades took the floor. His speech was a masterpiece, weaving together justice, glory, and necessity until every Athenian hung on his every word. With a single stroke, he convinced Athens to back the expedition. But before the ships could arrive in Sicily, Alcibiades was accused of sacrilege and recalled home to stand trial in Athens. No man was above the law, but Alcibiades wasn't ready to bend the knee. Instead, he fled, not to Sparta or Thebes or any other ally of Athens, but to Sparta, Athens' sworn enemy. Yes, Sparta. At first, the Spartans were suspicious. Why would Athens' brightest star defect? What secret knowledge did Alcibiades hold? Slowly, they lowered their guard, and he revealed everything, helping them fortify key positions, guiding them to victory after victory. Within months, Alcibiades became the most hated man in Athens. But what drove him to betray his city? Was it ambition, ego, or something else entirely? Some say Alcibiades despised how Athens treated him, a son of the city punished by the city he loved. Others claim he was forced into exile and had no choice but to defect. With Athens weakening by the day, Alcibiades had the Spartans right where he wanted them. Then he struck. One day he disappeared from Sparta, leaving nothing but a letter explaining his absence. But Alcibiades didn't flee to safety. No, he crossed enemy lines to Persia. Once again, he offered his services to the highest bidder, causing shockwaves across Greece. How could Alcibiades, Athens' golden boy, betray his city for the Persians? People whispered that Alcibiades was motivated by money, that he sold his soul for Persian gold. But the truth was far more complex. By now, Alcibiades knew what it meant to be a traitor. He also knew that Sparta's power was growing by the day, so instead of hiding away, he made a bold move. After all, he was a master strategist. So who better to lead Athens to victory than Alcibiades himself? When news of his return reached Athens, people were shocked. Was this the same Alcibiades who betrayed them? Or had he come back to save them? As the assembly debated, Alcibiades played his final card. He led a small fleet to victory against the Spartans, proving once and for all that he was a hero. Again, welcome back to Athens. And so Alcibiades returned to the city of his birth, celebrated as a hero. He was given a hero's welcome. The citizens who once booed his name now cheered it, and those who once feared his power now welcomed it. It seemed that Alcibiades had finally come home. But the damage was done, and he believed that Alcibiades had engineered his own recall to gain favor in Sparta. And now he was using Athens' desperation to get back in their good graces. Regardless, Alcibiades led Athens to several victories, and the citizens couldn't have been happier. For a moment, it seemed like the war was turning around, but the truth was far more brutal. Alcibiades had taken Athens as far as he could. Now the city needed to make a decision: continue fighting or seek peace. Alcibiades urged them to keep fighting, to resist Sparta at all costs. But the citizens disagreed. They wanted peace. When Alcibiades learned of the decision, he was furious. He stormed out of the assembly knowing that Athens had just sealed its fate. He wasn't wrong. Just a few years later, Athens fell and Alcibiades was exiled for the last time. History remembers Alcibiades as a great general and a terrible traitor. We remember him as the man who helped Sparta beat Athens. But the truth was far more complicated. Alcibiades was a man torn between two worlds, between two versions of himself, between two loves. In the end, he lost both. Some historians argue that Alcibiades never really loved Athens. He just liked being the favorite son. But there's no evidence to support this theory. Alcibiades really was a child of Athens. He loved the city and its people. Otherwise, he wouldn't have risked everything to save them. Others claim that Alcibiades was a tragic hero, a victim of circumstance. He wanted to be a statesman, but Athens kept pushing him toward the battlefield. He wanted to find common ground, but Sparta wouldn't let him. He wanted peace, but war kept dragging him back in. Whatever the truth, Alcibiades would die in Persia under mysterious circumstances. Some say he was assassinated on Spartan orders. Others claim he simply grew comfortable in Persia. Either way, his name was erased from the history books. No longer would his deeds be studied. No longer would his face adorn coins. No longer would his statue grace public squares. Athens had fallen, and with it, the last remnants of Alcibiades. Still, people whispered his name in taverns and marketplaces. Mothers used him to scare their children. Soldiers told stories of his daring raids. Lovers compared themselves to him. Even Sparta remembered Alcibiades. Their poets sang his praises. Their artists sculpted his features. Their generals studied his tactics. In the end, Alcibiades became a symbol of an age of heroes and villains, of traitors and statesmen, of war and peace. He embodied the best and worst of ancient Greece. And that's why they called him the most dangerous man in Athens. Was Alcibiades a villain, a visionary, a traitor, or simply a man who refused to be caged by the city that raised him? His actions may have doomed Athens or delayed its fall. But one thing is certain: in a war of nations, he fought for himself. Thank you for joining me today. If you love stories buried beneath the surface of history, subscribe and join us next week for another untold truth.